Pathology of Parkinson's disease. Learning outcomes for today. The readers will be able to understand what is Parkinson's disease, identify the various signs and symptoms of PD, discuss the neuronal pathway via which PD occurs, understand the general mechanism that leads to PD. Parkinson's disease. It may be defined as an extrapyramidal motor function disorder characterized by rigidity, tremor, hypokinesia or bradykinesia, and impairment of postural balance, which might lead to falling. Let us now discuss the signs and symptoms of this disease. First is rigidity. It implies increased resistance to passive motion when limbs are moved through their range of motion, that is, normal motion. There is also a term known as cogwheel rigidity, that is, jerky quality, intermittent catches of movement caused by sustained involuntary contraction of one or more muscles. So what happens? A person is not able to start walking immediately from a sitting position. On the contrary, if he is walking, then he is not able to stop the motion and sit very quickly, as common people can do. And this cogwheel rigidity refers to the jerking movements that sometimes the body feels even when it is at rest. Continuing with the signs and symptoms, the next comes tremor. Tremor is the shaking effect. Generally, it is present in the hands. It affects handwriting, which causes trailing off at ends of words. It is more prominent at rest. It is aggravated by emotional stress or increased concentration. And there is one feature known as pill rolling, which is a rotary motion of thumb and forefinger. By this, you can identify a person as having symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Next is bradykinesia. By brady, we mean less, and kinesia is nothing but motion. So it is also less motion and is caused by loss of automatic movements. Blinking of eyes, swinging of arms while walking, swallowing of saliva, self-expression with facial and hand movements, lack of spontaneous activity, and lack of postural adjustment. It results in a stooped posture, masked face, drooling of saliva, shuffling gait, festinating, and difficulty initiating a movement. So it's an overall reduction in the movements of the body. So in Parkinson's disease, this is the summary of all the signs and symptoms. Usually, the onset is gradual after 50 years of age, and it slowly progresses to a more severe form. There might be some mask-like blank expression, stooped posture, pill-rolling tremors, bradykinesia, as I already told, loss of normal arm swing while walking, less blinking of the eyelids, loss of ability to swallow, blank expression, difficulty initiating movement. Why blank expression? Because expressions are caused by the motion of the muscles in the face, which is restricted in this case. There might be possible mental deterioration. Obviously, there can be depression because the person is not able to function normally. There might be muscle rigidity, that is resistance to passive movement, cogwheel, jerky, slow movement. tremors. There can be tremor of tongue, lips, jaw, and it increases with stress, and shuffling propulsive gait. So this is the summary of the signs and symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Now we come to a general discussion of the basal ganglia and related structures present in brain, which will include the affected parts in this disease. Here, the thicker arrows and the red letters define the parts of the basal ganglia, and the ones indicated with a thinner arrow and black lettering indicate related structures. So the basal ganglia has caudate nucleus, globus pallidus, putamen, substantia nigra, ventral pallidum, olfactory tubercle, and nucleus accumbens. Whereas the related structures are the thalamus, subthalamic nucleus, and the ventral tegmental area. Coming to the pathology of PP, the basal ganglia has 5 large subcortical nuclei that control movement of the body. This includes the caudate nucleus, the putamen, the globus pallidus, subthalamic nucleus, and the substantia nigra. Now let us go back to our previous slide to see which are the parts of the brain that are mentioned here. So here we have the caudate nucleus, the putamen, the globus pallidus, the subthalamic nucleus, and the substantia nigra. That means it includes basal ganglia as well as a related structure which is affected in this disease. Now we will discuss how and why. Coming to the pathophysiology of the disease, here substantia nigra pars compacta provides dopaminergic innervation to striatum. The striatum is the area which consists of caudate nucleus and putamen. Here degeneration of neurons take place. So degeneration of neurons in the substantia nigra pars compacta and of nigrostriatal tract results in deficiency of dopamine in striatum to more than 80%. That means the dopaminergic neurons are involved in the pathophysiology of the disease known as PD. Okay. So any neuron that is related to dopaminergic activity, if it is affected or lost, and if it is present in the substantia nigra pars compacta, then it might have a direct impact in the production of signs and symptoms of this disease. So there will be a disruption of balance between acetylcholine and dopamine, because these areas in the brain contain cholinergic innervations as well as dopaminergic innervations. The disease is caused when the dopaminergic neurons are lost due to some factor or the other. In that case, the acetylcholine innervation, though not increase, will have a relative increase, and that will decrease the maintenance of balance between the two. As we know, the imbalance is primarily between the excitatory neurotransmitter, that is acetylcholine, and inhibitory neurotransmitter, that is dopamine, in the basal ganglia. So we can see from this schematic diagram that in the striatum and the substantia nigra that is involved in the pathology of this disease, we have both cholinergic and dopaminergic pathways, or dopaminergic and cholinergic neurons, that will secrete these two neurotransmitters, and there is involvement of GABAergic fibers in the substantia nigra. So these things are in a balance in the body, which controls the movement or the motor system of the body. If the DA fibers or dopaminergic fibers are depleted away, then cholinergic effect will increase and the GABAergic fiber function will be affected, ultimately causing motor dysfunctions. As we know, GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So, the balance between inhibition as well as excitatory neurotransmitter will be disrupted, causing motor dysfunction. Now, let us discuss a general mechanism by which this might happen. Various factors are involved in the development of this disease. Might be environmental toxin, neuronal metabolism, or might be a direct implication of aging. This all may lead to free radical formation, oxidative stress, and excitotoxicity. Selective vulnerability of neuronal population and everything will lead to DNA damage, high lipid peroxidation, or protein damage, which will ultimately cause cell death. Here, the cell death implies to the death of the neurons, which are a part of the dopaminergic pathway in the substantia nigra or the basal ganglia on a whole. Hence, we can say a multitude of factors will lead to cell death that will cause dopaminergic deficiency in the basal ganglia, which will cause the development of Parkinson's disease and will increase the signs and symptoms of this disease. So hence, we had an overview of the pathophysiology of this disease. Thank you for your attention.